Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 241, The Demon King General Extermination Quest, The Power of Explosion. Luna, please accept the quest for us. Roy-san, are you sure you want to take this quest? Luna asked, her voice laced with concern. Yes. Roy nodded, his expression serious. All right. Luna sighed and accepted the quest to defeat the Demon King General. Let's get ready and head out, Roy said to the girls. They soon left the town. According to the map, it should be this way. Let's go. Darkness declared, consulting the map provided by the Adventurers Guild and leading the way. They marched towards the Demon King General's castle under the setting sun. They soon spotted the castle in the distance. Wow! Is that the Demon King General's castle? It's huge! Megumin exclaimed, gazing at the imposing fortress on the hill. Yes, that's it. Let's hurry and finish this, Roy said with a smirk. You seem awfully confident, Roy, Aqua commented. They quickened their pace. But although the castle seemed close, it was still quite a distance. Megumin, the weakest physically, was the first to tire out. Roy had no choice but to carry her on his back. Without Megumin slowing them down, they quickly reached the castle. Roy, what's our plan? Darkness asked. How about I blast it with explosion? Megumin suggested from Roy's back. No, Roy said, playfully patting her bottom. You can only use explosion once, Megumin. We have to save it for a critical moment. Darkness, I need you to lure the Demon King General out of the castle, he instructed. Leave it to me. Darkness declared confidently. She walked towards the ominous castle without fear. Meanwhile, the Demon King General inside the castle had noticed their approach. He ordered his forces to attack. Just as Darkness reached the castle gate, it swung open. A horde of monsters swarmed out, startling Darkness. Roy quickly pulled her back with his magic. But the monsters didn't pursue them. They simply lined up outside the castle. Roy and the others estimated that there were thousands of high-level monsters. This force alone could easily destroy Axel. Then, the monsters parted, and a headless knight emerged from their midst. Of course, he wasn't actually headless. He was carrying his head in his arms. The headless knight stopped before them and laughed. Ha ha ha. So you're the adventurers who came to challenge me? The girls, despite facing a massive army of monsters and a Demon King General, showed no fear. Humph. I am Megumin, wielder of the strongest magic, explosion. Megumin declared dramatically, covering half her face with her cloak and revealing one glowing red eye. That's right. We're here to defeat you, Demon King General. Darkness added, standing protectively in front of the others. The headless knight was momentarily taken aback, then burst into laughter again. Ah, you fledglings, barely out of your nest, think you can defeat this Demon King General? He laughed so hard that he doubled over. Megumin, prepare explosion, Roy said with a chuckle, patting Megumin's head. Okay. Megumin nodded seriously, then began chanting her incantation. Crimson black flames, in the name of destruction and ruin, the hammer of purgatory descends upon my hand, explosion. The intense magical energy gathering around her caught the headless knight's attention. He could sense the destructive power of her spell. Although he wasn't afraid, his subordinates wouldn't be able to withstand it. He charged towards them, attempting to interrupt the casting. I won't let you pass. Darkness shouted, blocking his path with her sword. But Roy pulled her back. With her current level, even with her high-quality armor, she wouldn't be able to withstand the headless knight's charge. Darkness, protect Megumin while she casts her spell. I'll stop the Headless Knight, Roy ordered. Darkness reluctantly agreed. Be careful, she said. Don't worry. Roy gave her a thumbs up, then drew his sword and faced the Headless Knight. Clang! To Darkness and Megumin's surprise, Roy blocked the Headless Knight's charge with his average sword. The blade didn't even bend or break. How? The Headless Knight exclaimed in shock. How could a novice adventurer block his attack? He was a Demon King General. This is impossible. The Headless Knight roared and swung his sword again. This time, his attack was even stronger. The air rippled with the force of his swing. But Roy remained calm and effortlessly blocked the attack. Normally, an average sword would be no match for a Demon King General's weapon. But in Roy's hands, it was as if the sword had become indestructible. Meanwhile, Megumin had finished her incantation. The sky darkened as a massive amount of magical energy gathered. A devastating beam of crimson light descended from the sky, striking the center of the monster army. Boom! The explosion shook the earth, and the flames soared into the sky. Even the Headless Knight paused his attack. When the dust settled, half of the monster army was gone. Damn you! You killed so many of my subordinates. You've angered me, the Headless Knight roared. He waved his hand, and the remaining monsters charged towards them. He had abandoned any pretense of knightly honor and simply ordered his troops to attack. Aqua, it's your turn. Use your purification magic. Roy shouted, seeing the approaching horde. Megumin had collapsed after casting Explosion. Oh, okay. Aqua replied, then unleashed her purification magic. A low-level spell was child's play for her. She didn't even need an incantation. A few blasts of purification magic wiped out most of the remaining monsters. Darkness blocked the rest, allowing them to be easily defeated. Within moments, all the monsters were gone. The Headless Knight was shocked. Were his troops really that weak? It was Megumin's explosion and Aqua's purification magic that had made the difference. Explosion was incredibly powerful, and purification was the natural enemy of these monsters. You adventurers are quite capable. Ha ha, the Headless Knight suddenly burst out laughing. His subordinates were all dead, yet he was laughing? Aqua, Darkness, and the others exchanged confused glances. What I meant to say is that I can summon as many subordinates as I want. Come forth, my knights. The Headless Knight raised his arms, and hundreds of skeletal knights appeared around him. I alone can slaughter the entire town of Axel. Wahahaha. Darkness and Megumin were horrified. Don't worry, I can purify any number of these monsters, Aqua assured them confidently. She had regained her confidence after defeating so many monsters earlier. Just watch, she declared, unleashing a powerful purification spell that enveloped a wide area, including the Headless Knight. Ah, the Headless Knight screamed in pain. Ah, got him. Aqua exclaimed triumphantly. Roy chuckled. Aqua's purification magic was powerful, and most monsters couldn't withstand it. As Aqua was celebrating, the Headless Knight stood up again. Are you really novice adventurers from Axel? He asked in disbelief, his voice trembling slightly. Although he was trying to act tough, he was clearly afraid of Aqua's purification magic. Chapter 242, Aqua's hands feel pretty good hunting the snow sprites. We are novice adventurers from Axel. Now, face the divine power of purification. Aqua declared, seeing the Headless Knight's hesitation. She unleashed another blast of purification magic. Aha! The Headless Knight screamed in pain, rolling on the ground. But he didn't seem to be disintegrating. Aqua took a step back, fear creeping into her eyes. Roy, my purification magic isn't working on him, she exclaimed. Roy's eye twitched. The Headless Knight was writhing in pain, yet she claimed it wasn't working? Was she serious? But he didn't say anything and simply chuckled. Let me handle this. He handed the unconscious Megumin to Darkness, then walked towards the Headless Knight. Darkness, Megumin, and Aqua watched expectantly, curious to see how he would defeat the Demon King General. The Headless Knight stopped rolling around. Regardless of whether his power was weakened or not, he was still a weakling in Roy's eyes. Ha ha ha, human, your magic is useless against me. Don't waste your energy, the Headless Knight taunted, pretending to be unharmed. You're quite brave to fight me alone. Then, as a knight, I shall accept your duel. Don't underestimate me. I was a great knight in my life. Roy couldn't help but laugh. This Demon King General was trying to trick him into a duel? Fine. Don't worry, they won't interfere, Roy assured him, reaching the Headless Knight and swinging his average sword. Ah, human, your weak attacks are useless against me, the Headless Knight laughed, not even bothering to dodge. He would take this attack head-on. But just as the sword was about to hit him, he suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. He tried to dodge, but it was too late. Roy's sword sliced through him effortlessly. Slice! The Headless Knight, along with the head he was holding, was cleaved in two. How? He gasped before vanishing into dust. Amazing! Darkness and Megumin stared at Roy in shock. He had slain a Demon King General in a single strike using nothing but an ordinary sword. I knew I didn't choose the wrong person. Roy will definitely defeat the Demon King. Aqua exclaimed, throwing her arms around him in a hug. She was overjoyed. Once Roy defeated the Demon King, she could return to being a goddess. Roy wrapped his arms around her waist and patted her bottom, but she didn't react. Alright, now that the Demon King General and his monsters are gone, let's go loot the castle, Roy said with a grin. Yes, there must be lots of treasures inside, Megumin agreed, having recovered some of her magical energy and striking a dramatic pose. Aqua, the greedy goddess, was the most excited. Let's go then, she exclaimed, struggling to break free from Roy's embrace. But she couldn't escape his grasp. And she didn't even seem to mind being groped. As expected of the useless goddess. Roy chuckled inwardly. Taking advantage of a goddess, even a useless one, was still quite satisfying. Let's go find some treasure, Roy declared, leading the way towards the castle. The castle was massive, but since the Demon King General had only recently moved in, there wasn't much treasure inside. Even so, they still found valuables worth over 100 million Eris. If the castle hadn't been occupied by monsters, Roy might have even considered making it their new home. But he wasn't short on money now. He would find a suitable place later. They couldn't carry all the treasure with them, so they decided to return to the Adventurers Guild and let them handle it. By the time they returned to Axel, it was already evening. Roy-sama, you're finally back, Luna exclaimed, her worried expression replaced by relief as she saw Roy. She rushed over to him. Don't worry, the quest is complete, Roy reassured her with a smile. Even if you didn't complete it. What? It's complete? Luna's eyes widened in surprise. Roy-sama, are you saying that you defeated the Demon King General? She asked cautiously. Of course. If you don't believe me, send someone to check the castle, Roy said with a shrug and a grin. No, I believe you, Luna quickly explained. But Roy interrupted her. No need to explain. Just prepare a feast for us. And have someone go to the castle and collect the valuables. There are spoils of war, he instructed. Luna nodded. Yes, Roy-sama, I'll arrange it right away. She didn't question him any further and immediately went to make the arrangements. Roy was pleased with her efficiency. After enjoying a delicious meal, Luna returned, her face filled with excitement and shock. Roy-sama, we've confirmed that the Demon King General has indeed been defeated. The treasures in the castle have also been accounted for. The total value is 200 million Eris. And with the reward for defeating the Demon King General, that's a total of 500 million Eris, she reported. What about the castle, Roy-sama? What would you like us to do with it? 500 million Eris? Aqua squealed in delight. She hadn't received much from the cabbage harvest since Roy had captured them all himself. But this time, she had contributed significantly. She deserved a share of the reward. As for the castle, do whatever you want with it, Roy said with a dismissive wave of his hand. He didn't care about money. He had taken on the quest for the experience and to deepen his bonds with the girls. Yes, Roy-sama. I'll handle it, Luna replied and left to attend to her duties. She was quite busy now that the Demon King General was gone. The news of their victory spread quickly through the guild hall. The other adventurers looked at them with a mixture of awe and envy. They're amazing. They actually defeated a Demon King General. Aren't they novice adventurers? How are they so strong? You haven't heard? Roy-sama is the powerful mage who single-handedly captured all the cabbages. No, he's a swordsman, isn't he? Roy and the others ignored the gossip and enjoyed their after-dinner tea. Now that the Demon King General was gone, they could finally take on some normal quests. The next day, at the quest board. Roy. Let's take this quest to subjugate the White Wolves. The reward is 1 million Eris. And just imagine being ravaged by those wolves. It would be so blissful. Darkness exclaimed, her face flushed with excitement. Roy sighed at her masochistic fantasies. Roy. How about this one? Megumin asked, tugging on his arm and pointing at a quest to defeat a one-hit bear. Let's see who can deliver the stronger blow, my explosion or that bear's, she declared with a dramatic pose. This quest to subjugate the snow sprites is good too. 10,000 Eris per snow sprites. Aqua chimed in. The three girls looked at Roy expectantly. Then let's take all three. Roy declared. After all, these quests were child's play for him. No problem, the girls replied in unison. They made some preparations and set off to hunt the white wolves. These wolves were stronger than the demon wolves they had faced before. But Roy and the girls were also stronger now. They had all reached level 20 or higher after defeating the Demon King General. Megumin's explosion magic was also much more powerful now. The quest to subjugate the white wolves was a breeze. Megumin's explosion wiped out most of the pack, and Roy and Darkness finished off the rest. They completed the quest in less than a day. They then moved on to the next quest, defeating the one-hit bear. The bear was massive, but since Megumin had already used explosion, Roy had to deal with it himself. After easily completing the first two quests, they returned to the Adventurers Guild. The next day, they set off to complete the third quest, subjugating the snow sprites. Bundled up in warm clothes, they arrived at a snow-covered region. The air was filled with snowflakes, and small, fist-sized snowballs were flying around. These were the snow sprites. It's said that defeating a snow sprites brings spring closer, Darkness explained. This place is quite beautiful, Roy commented, admiring the scenery. The snow-covered landscape and the dancing snow spirits were indeed a sight to behold. But they had a quest to complete. Megumin, use explosion to wipe them out, Roy instructed. Okay. Megumin nodded and began her Chinibuesque chant. But perhaps due to the cold, she cut it short and unleashed her explosion magic. Boom! The earth shook violently, and a large crater appeared where the snow sprites had been concentrated. Countless snow sprites were instantly vaporized. Chapter 243, The Voluptuous Lich, was New Mansion. The next day, after searching for a while, they finally found a suitable property. But before they could buy it, they had to help the owner get rid of some ghosts in the graveyard. This was the haunted mansion from the original story. They accepted the quest and went to the graveyard at night. But they weren't alone. Damn undead! Are you the one causing trouble here? Aqua shouted, charging towards a figure standing in the graveyard. Her divine power was ineffective against most monsters but was the natural enemy of the undead. Her attack instantly interrupted the figure's spellcasting. Roy's eyes lit up. The figure was a lich and a former Demon King General. She had once been the leader of the strongest adventurer party. Although she wasn't a crimson demon, she was proficient in various magic. Due to her ruthlessness towards monsters, she was also called the Ice Witch. To save her cursed companion, she had become a lich with the help of the demon duke, Vanir. She had served as one of the Demon King's generals, responsible for maintaining the barrier around the Demon King's castle. Now, she was the owner of a magic item shop in Axel, struggling to make ends meet. It was hard to imagine that the once cold and ruthless Wiz had become a ditzy and impoverished shopkeeper. Roy found her quite endearing. Eek! Help! Wiz shrieked, suddenly feeling a powerful divine aura that disrupted her spellcasting. A wave of fear washed over her, and she saw a blinding light heading towards her. Aqua's divine power was deadly to the undead. At the last moment, someone stepped in front of her and caught Aqua's fist. Aqua, can you at least figure out what's going on before attacking? Roy sighed. Roy, didn't you see this undead causing trouble? Aqua asked, pointing at Wiz. Wiz, terrified, hid behind Roy like a scared kitten. She was now utterly terrified of Aqua. And she had also guessed that Aqua was a goddess. Otherwise, she wouldn't feel such a strong sense of danger. Idiot, can't you see she's exorcising the spirits? Roy said, flicking Aqua's forehead lightly. Aqua clutched her head. But she's just an undead, she protested. But she is exorcising the spirits, isn't she? Darkness chimed in, defending Wiz. What's your name? Roy asked, turning to Wiz. I'm Wiz, a lich, as you can see. I'm exorcising the spirits here, Wiz replied nervously. Since her identity had been exposed, she had no choice but to confess. A lich! Megumin exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise. Darkness frowned. She felt like she had seen Wiz somewhere before, but she couldn't remember where. Humph. She's still an undead. Take this. Aqua declared, charging towards Wiz again. Wiz quickly hid behind Roy, realizing that he was her only protector now. Idiot, don't just attack any undead you see. Can't you see she's helping us? Roy said, stopping Aqua. He sighed inwardly. He turned to Wiz and said with a reassuring smile, Don't worry, Wiz. I won't let Aqua hurt you. But we've accepted the quest to exorcise the spirits here, so we'll take over. Wiz was touched. Thank you. Then I'll be going now. She bowed and quickly left. She was truly afraid of Aqua. Why did you let her go? Aqua complained, pouting. She's not a bad person. Now, let's exorcise these spirits, Roy said with a shrug. Aqua, although still unhappy, didn't argue and started exorcising the spirits. As an archpriest, this was a simple task for her. Roy remembered that in the original story, Aqua had been too lazy to exorcise all the spirits, which had led to them infesting the mansion. This time, he made sure she finished the job properly. Ha! I'm exhausted, Aqua said, collapsing onto Roy, who caught her. Since the quest is complete, let's go back and check out that mansion, Roy suggested. Okay. Aqua perked up at the mention of the mansion. Megumin and Darkness also nodded eagerly. They reported their success at the Adventurers Guild, then went to meet the owner of the mansion and bought it. The mansion was quite dilapidated. It was no wonder it was being sold. Even Roy found it a bit too shabby. He waved his hand. The mansion was instantly renovated. Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness stared in awe. Roy, what kind of magic is that? That's incredible. It's even better than divine power. Roy chuckled, amused by their reactions. Let's go inside. This is our new home, he said, leading the way. Home? The girls exchanged glances, a hint of anticipation in their eyes, then followed him inside. Wow! It's so beautiful! Megumin exclaimed, marveling at the interior. Even Darkness was impressed. The decorations here were even more luxurious than those in her family's mansion. Aqua, however, wasn't interested in the decorations. She was drawn to a large and comfortable-looking bed. She jumped onto it and started rolling around happily. This bed is so soft. Megumin and Darkness also couldn't resist the temptation and joined her on the bed. Winter arrived and life settled into a peaceful routine. Roy found himself a bit bored. Aside from his daily training with Darkness, there wasn't much to do. As the weather grew colder, Megumin and Aqua also became less inclined to go on quests. Roy even considered just defeating the Demon King to end this game early. But he decided against it. After all, Yun, Megumin's rival, hadn't appeared yet. He couldn't end this adventure without meeting her. One day, Kazuma unexpectedly visited them. "Ha, Roy, I didn't expect you to become such a famous adventurer in such a short time. I found this place easily just by asking around," Kazuma said, a confident grin on his face as he sat in the living room, dressed in an expensive fur coat. It seemed his dream of becoming a successful merchant had come true. "Of course. We've already defeated a Demon King general. We'll be taking on the Demon King himself soon," Aqua declared proudly. "Really? Congratulations," Kazuma said with a forced smile. He felt a mix of emotions, but he quickly pushed them aside. They chatted for a while, and Kazuma shared his experiences as a merchant. To Roy's surprise, Kazuma had become a regular at the Succubus pub, having invented several useful gadgets for them. Roy knew about the Succubus pub in this town, but he had never been there. "Roy, I have something to discuss with you in private," Kazuma suddenly said, leaning closer. "Ha? What is it that you can't tell me in front of everyone?" Aqua asked suspiciously. Megumin and Darkness also looked at them curiously. Kazuma blushed, embarrassed. Roy, curious about what he wanted to say, agreed. "Aqua, could you and the others excuse us for a moment?" "Ugh, fine." Aqua reluctantly left the living room, followed by Darkness and Megumin. "Alright, you can talk now," Roy said to Kazuma. "Ha!" Kazuma grinned and pulled out a card, whispering, "This is a secret for men. With this card, you can enjoy the services of a succubus. How about it? Want to try it?" So that was it. Roy's interest waned. He had Darkness at home, and he was planning to conquer Megumin soon. He wasn't interested in visiting the Succubus pub. "Sorry, I'm not interested," Roy said with a chuckle, declining the offer. "Eh?" Kazuma's face fell. He had been confident that Roy would accept. "Why? Is it because—" He suddenly realized that Roy had several beautiful girls in his party, especially that blonde girl with an impressive figure. He sighed in defeat. "Alright then. Sorry to bother you." He left, feeling dejected. "Roy, what did he say to you?" Aqua asked as she and the others returned to the living room. "What's this?" Darkness picked up the card on the table. "Succubus services." She read aloud, then blushed. "Succubus services? Roy, how could you?" Aqua exclaimed. "You have so many beautiful girls at home." Megumin added. "Am I just a toy to be used and discarded?" Darkness cried dramatically. "You idiots! What are you thinking?" Roy said, flicking Aqua and Megumin and Darkness on their foreheads. "That was just something Kazuma left behind. I'm not interested in succubi." "Really?" Aqua asked suspiciously. "Of course. Why would I need succubi when I have all of you beautiful girls?" Roy sighed. Megumin and Darkness blushed. Aqua, however, took a step back with a suspicious look on her face. "So you do have ulterior motives towards me," she accused. Roy rolled his eyes and didn't bother explaining. He simply gave her a look that said, "Use your brain." Aqua, seeing his expression, exploded. "What's with that look? Are you looking down on me? I'm a goddess," she shouted, jumping on him and hitting him playfully. But after Roy spanked her a few times, she calmed down. Chapter 244, The Mobile Fortress Attacks. La Latina is not a perverted knight. One day, Darkness's family sent a large shipment of food and other supplies. Her father was still worried about her adventuring and wanted to make sure she was well fed. Chris also returned. "Ha, I didn't expect you to buy this mansion, Roy. Do I have a room here?" she asked with a grin. Roy replied with a warm smile, "Of course you do. You're always welcome here, Chris. This is your home." Chris's heart skipped a beat. She had just been joking, but Roy's words touched her. "Why are you saying such sweet things? Are you trying to win me over?" she asked, wiping a tear from her eye. You're a bit flat-chested, but you're still cute." "I suppose you meet my standards," Roy said with a thoughtful expression, pretending to consider her seriously. Chris's eye twitched. "Give me back my touching moment," she grumbled. Megumin, hearing this, looked down at her own flat chest and thought, "If Chris is acceptable, then I should be fine too, right? Roy, you're becoming more and more depraved. Even a flat-chested girl like that." Aqua commented with a smirk. Chris and Megumin glared at her. After some playful banter, Darkness went to prepare lunch with the ingredients her family had sent. Soon, a table full of delicious food was ready. "Wow, it smells so good," Megumin exclaimed, drooling. Aqua was also practically drooling. "Let's eat," Roy announced. "Itadakimasu." Aqua immediately started eating before he even finished speaking. The steamed crabs, dipped in sauce, were incredibly delicious. Even Roy, who was usually picky with his food, couldn't help but indulge. Just as they finished their meal, the emergency bell in the Adventurers Guild rang. "Alert! Alert! The mobile fortress destroyer is approaching the town. All citizens, please evacuate immediately. Adventurers, please equip yourselves and gather at the Adventurers Guild." Luna's voice boomed through the loudspeakers, reaching everyone in the town. The town was instantly thrown into chaos. Aqua, who had been relaxing after her meal, jumped up in fear. "Roy, let's run. As far away as possible," she cried, clinging to him. Roy sighed and held her head to calm her down. The mobile fortress destroyer. "Fighting that thing is suicide," even Megumin, who was usually fearless, said with a shudder. Darkness, seeing that Roy might not know about the destroyer, explained, "The mobile fortress destroyer is an ancient weapon that has gone berserk. It's said to destroy everything in its path." "So? Is it stronger than the Demon King generals?" Roy asked with a smirk. "Even if it is, so what? No enemy can make me back down." His words, although spoken calmly, contained an undeniable air of confidence and determination. The girl's eyes lit up. Chris looked at him with admiration. His unwavering confidence was truly heroic. Even a goddess couldn't help but be attracted to such a presence. "Then let's go to the Adventurers Guild," Darkness said, her confidence restored. They headed to the guild hall. "Roy-sama, you're finally here." Luna sighed in relief, seeing them arrive. Almost all the adventurers in town were gathered there. They also seemed calmer now that Roy and his party had arrived. "What's the situation?" Roy asked Luna. A receptionist brought over a crystal orb that showed the location of the destroyer. "Currently, the destroyer is northwest of the town. It should arrive in about an hour," she reported. The adventurers gasped. They didn't have much time. The crystal orb showed a massive, spider-like machine with 8 legs marching towards the town. The ground cracked and trees snapped under its weight. It was like a giant plow, tearing through the earth. The adventurers were silent, their faces grim. "That mobile fortress is an ancient magical weapon, isn't it? Didn't the one who created it leave behind any way to stop it?" a red-haired mage suddenly asked. The other adventurers also wondered about that. Such a powerful weapon should have some kind of control mechanism. "The country that created the destroyer was destroyed when it went berserk. So, we don't know if there's a way to control it," Luna explained. "There's probably no way to control it. Otherwise, why would the ancient magic kingdom be destroyed? Darkness said. Her words dashed the adventurers' hopes of controlling the destroyer. We should just run, Chris suggested. No, the townspeople will be left homeless, Darkness objected. You're so stubborn, Darkness. Chris sighed. Roy. You must have a plan, right? Tell us, Chris said, tugging on Roy's sleeve. Aqua, you should be able to break the destroyer's barrier, right? Roy asked Aqua. Although he could easily handle the destroyer himself, he wanted to give the girls a chance to shine. I'm not sure. I'll have to try it first, Aqua replied. Can you really break the destroyer's barrier? Luna asked excitedly. No problem, Roy assured her with a smile. That's great. Then, as long as we have powerful enough magic, we can destroy it, Luna said. Don't we have someone with powerful magic right here? One of the adventurers said, reminding everyone of Megumin. Yeah, that crazy girl. That's right, that crazy girl. Megumin's eye twitched. She didn't realize they were talking about her at first. But when everyone turned to look at her, she knew. Wait a minute. If you're talking about me, stop calling me crazy. Or else, I'll show you just how crazy I can be, she declared with a serious expression. Roy chuckled. She was so cute. Megumin, they're just teasing you. Don't be angry, he said, patting her head gently. Megumin pouted. Sorry I'm late, a voice suddenly called out. Wiz squeezed through the crowd of adventurers. I'm the owner of the Wiz Magic Item Shop. Technically, I'm still a qualified adventurer. Please let me help, she declared. Most of the adventurers in the guild hall knew Wiz. They cheered, seeing her. All right, everyone, the emergency quest begins. Luna announced, her voice filled with excitement. The adventurers gathered at the northwestern gate of the town, ready to face the destroyer. They had less than an hour before it arrived. Everyone made their preparations. Roy didn't need to do anything, but Darkness pulled him aside for a private conversation. Roy, have I given you the wrong impression? Do you really think I'm that kind of woman who's obsessed with those kinds of things? She asked with an unusually serious expression. If he didn't know any better, he would have thought she was a normal crusader. What do you mean? Roy asked with a shrug. Darkness blushed. See? That's exactly what I mean, Roy chuckled. No, it's not that. Actually, my real name is Dustiness Ford Lalatina, Darkness confessed, her face turning even redder. I'm the daughter of the Dustiness family, the rulers of this region. Okay, and? Roy raised an eyebrow. I'm a crusader. Protecting the people of this land is my duty and my pride. So, I won't back down, even if the enemy is the mobile fortress destroyer, Darkness declared, her voice filled with determination. Then, she blushed even harder. So, Lalatina, you don't have faith in me? Roy teased. Don't call me that. Darkness exclaimed, flustered. Roy smirked. He knew calling her by her real name embarrassed her. Roy, do you like me like this? Darkness asked, her blue eyes searching his face for an answer. Roy pulled her into a hug and said with a smile, Of course I do. You're the first woman who allowed me to truly be myself. Darkness blushed, her eyes filled with love. Chapter 245, The Allure of Explosion Magic, taking Luna as a servant. As they were talking, the mobile fortress destroyer finally appeared on the horizon. The sight of the colossal machine filled the adventurers with dread. After all, it was a legendary weapon of destruction that had once razed an entire city, and no one had ever been able to stop it. Even Megumin, standing beside Roy, couldn't help but tremble. Don't be afraid, Megumin. It's just a machine, Roy said, gently patting her head to comfort her. Aye. I'll use explosion to blow it up. Megumin stammered, her voice trembling. They were standing on the town walls, while Aqua and Wiz were on the other side. Hey, Roy. Is everything all right over there? Aqua shouted. Roy glanced at Megumin, who was still shaking like a leaf, and sighed. Everything's fine. Don't worry, he shouted back, then turned to Megumin with a smile. If you're not feeling up to it, you don't have to force yourself. Just stay behind me. Remember, I've also learned explosion magic. He stepped forward, his expression calm as he faced the approaching destroyer. Megumin, seeing him standing protectively in front of her, felt her fear subside. She stared at him with wide eyes. As the destroyer drew closer, Aqua finally began casting her spell. She raised her flower-shaped staff and shouted, "Sacred Break Spell!" 5 golden magic circles appeared in the sky, and 5 beams of light converged into a single massive beam that struck the destroyer. The reason the destroyer had been unstoppable for so many years was its magic barrier. The barrier prevented anyone from damaging its core. But under Aqua's powerful attack, the barrier shattered. Now's our chance, Megumin. Let's do this together. Wiz exclaimed, turning to Megumin, only to find her clinging to Roy's back. She was stunned. It's fine. I can use explosion too, Roy said with a chuckle. But then... No! Megumin suddenly stepped forward. I will never back down from a fight, not even against the Demon King. Watch this is the true power of explosion, she declared, her Chinibya spirit reignited. Roy smiled. Megumin had overcome her fear. They both began chanting the incantation for explosion. Darkness blacker than black and darker than dark, I beseech thee, grant me the crimson light. The time of awakening has come. The absurd and contradictory laws of the world shall be twisted and distorted. Explosion. As they finished the incantation, 2 massive red magic circles appeared in the sky, dyeing it crimson. 2 powerful beams of light shot towards the destroyer. Boom! The destroyer, unable to dodge in time, was struck head-on. When the smoke cleared, the machine had stopped moving. It had been destroyed by the 2 explosions. The adventurers cheered. Megumin collapsed into Roy's arms, her face etched with frustration. As expected of a lich. She's much stronger than me. I'm not giving up. Megumin, you were amazing. You're still young. It's understandable that you're not as strong as Wiz, who has been practicing magic for who knows how long. But I believe you'll surpass her one day, Roy said encouragingly. He was telling the truth. Wiz was a renowned arch-wizard, while Megumin was still a novice adventurer. It was only natural for her to be weaker. Megumin blushed, flustered by his praise. Just then, the adventurers started panicking again. The seemingly deactivated destroyer's lights flickered ominously. Warning! Warning! The main body has sustained critical damage. Self-destruct sequence activated. All personnel, please evacuate immediately, a mechanical voice announced from the destroyer. The adventurers, hearing this, fled in terror. But then, darkness suddenly started running towards the destroyer. Roy quickly grabbed her. Darkness, calm down. I'll handle this, he said. Roy-sama, do you have a plan? If not, we should run. Luna exclaimed, rushing over to them. She was worried about Roy. Roy was touched by her concern. Even in this dangerous situation, she had come to check on him instead of running away. Luna, after this is over, become my servant, he said with a smile. Hey, don't jinx it. Megumin protested. She thought Roy was just speaking metaphorically, like a Chinibyu. Luna, however, was stunned. But Roy didn't give her a chance to ask any questions. Let's go. It's time to finish this, Roy declared, jumping off the wall with Megumin in his arms. Darkness and Luna followed him. Aqua, who had been about to run away, hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth and followed them as well. They soon reached the destroyer. Roy, do you really have a plan? If not, let's just run. Aqua pleaded, looking at the massive machine with fear. Stay here. Don't follow me. Roy said. He walked towards the destroyer, stopping a short distance away from it. He then drew his sword and casually swung it at the machine. What is Roy doing? He can't reach the destroyer from that distance. Aqua exclaimed in disbelief. But as soon as she finished speaking, a massive wave of energy erupted from Roy's sword, slicing through the destroyer like a hot knife through butter. Boom! After a moment, the destroyer slowly toppled over. Warning! Self-destruct sequence initiated. Countdown, 3, 2. The mechanical voice suddenly stopped. Luna, Aqua, and the others were stunned. Then, cheers erupted. We did it! We defeated it! Luna exclaimed, looking at Roy with admiration. She couldn't believe he had defeated the destroyer so easily. The destroyer was powered by a coronatite, a magical core that provided it with near-infinite energy. But Roy's attack had shattered the coronatite and destroyed the destroyer's energy reserves. The crisis was averted. This destroyer was a powerful weapon. If it were in the world of Akame Kill, no one would be able to destroy it, not even his death. The adventurers who had fled earlier also returned, seeing that the danger was gone. Roy-sama defeated the destroyer. Everyone, it's safe now. Roy-sama is amazing. Thank you, Roy-sama, for saving us. The adventurers expressed their gratitude to Roy. That night, Roy, Aqua, Megumin, Darkness, Chris, and Luna celebrated their victory at the Adventurers Guild. Chris, who had mysteriously disappeared when the destroyer arrived and only reappeared after it was defeated, was also present. After the celebration, they returned to the mansion to rest. But Roy then went to the Adventurers Guild alone. Roy-sama, you haven't left yet? Luna asked in surprise, seeing him. She was also about to go home. Luna, do you remember what I said earlier today? Luna thought for a moment, then said hesitantly, about making me your servant? That's right. Are you hesitant? Roy asked with a smile. No, I agree. But... Luna was overjoyed, but she didn't quite understand what being his servant entailed. Would she become his family? Or something else? She didn't consider the possibility of Roy being a devil. Since you agree, accept my power, Roy said, offering her an evil piece. This is... Luna looked at the chess piece with confusion. Don't ask. Just accept it. All right. Luna agreed after a moment of hesitation. She took the evil piece, and it instantly merged with her body. A magic circle appeared beneath her feet, lifting her into the air. A bright light enveloped her. Roy smirked. It seemed Luna had successfully become a devil. The light faded. A pair of black devil wings sprouted from her back, flapping gently and keeping her afloat. Luna opened her eyes. She looked at her hands, then at her wings, and finally understood what had happened. She had become a devil. But she didn't regret it. Her original dream had been to become a powerful adventurer, but her lack of talent had forced her to give up on that dream. And now, she had finally obtained power. She was overjoyed, especially since her appearance hadn't changed much. In fact, she looked even more beautiful now. Thank you, Roy-sama. Luna exclaimed, retracting her wings and kneeling respectfully. Don't mention it. From now on, you belong to me. Understand? Roy said, helping her up. Yes, everything I have belongs to Roy-sama, Luna replied with a nod, then leaned closer to him and whispered seductively, So, Roy-sama, would you like to come to my place tonight? Roy's heart skipped a beat. Sure, he replied with a smirk. Then please follow me, Roy-sama. Luna smiled and led him away. It seemed tonight would be another sleepless night as he worked on conquering this mature beauty. Chapter 246, Union's chest is huge, Shunibu reunion. The next day, Roy got dressed with Luna's help and returned to the mansion. As soon as he arrived, Darkness pounced on him, followed by Aqua, Megumin, and Chris. Waha! Have I been abandoned? The wife is alone at home, while her husband spends the night out with another woman. This is so exciting. Darkness wailed dramatically, her face flushed with masochistic pleasure. Aqua and Megumin rolled their eyes at her antics. But they also realized what Darkness was implying. Darkness, are you serious about being his wife? Chris asked. Darkness blushed and turned away, unable to answer. But her reaction was enough to confirm the truth. Chris, Aqua, and Megumin all turned to Roy. After all, he was the only man in their party. Roy, you've already made a move on Darkness? That's so mean. I was here first. Aqua protested, although it was hard to tell if she was serious or not. Pervert. Megumin simply commented, but she felt a pang of sadness in her heart. Roy was surprised that Darkness had revealed their relationship. Was she trying to confirm their status? But since she had already said it, he couldn't deny it without seeming like a jerk. That's right. Lalatina is my woman now, Roy declared, pulling Darkness into his arms and using her real name. Darkness blushed and buried her face in his chest. Really? Then Roy, you have to treat Darkness well. Chris said, happy for her friend. After all, Roy was perfect in both looks and strength. Even she had never met anyone like him. And he had just shown his responsible side by acknowledging his relationship with Darkness. So, she sincerely wished them well. Don't worry, Roy replied with a smile and a nod. And no more flirting with other girls, Chris added with a playful wink. No. Darkness suddenly objected. It's normal for nobles to have multiple wives. So Megumin, Aqua, Chris, even if you all join, it's fine, she said, her voice trembling slightly as she confessed her true desires. The girls were stunned. No way. Chris immediately refused. I won't join either. And as a goddess, I can't be someone's mistress, Aqua added, shaking her head. Only Megumin remained silent, her face flushed. Roy sighed. He hadn't expected Darkness to be so eager to share him. It seemed he would have to reward her extra tonight. The commotion eventually subsided. Aqua and Chris didn't seem to have any particular thoughts on the matter. But Megumin was different. After spending time with Roy, she had fallen for him. And now, Darkness had taken the first step. Shouldn't she do something too? But Megumin was too shy to act on her feelings. Roy, however, noticed her inner turmoil. It seemed Megumin had also been conquered. But she was still too young, in every sense of the word. He would have to nurture her feelings for a while longer. If it were Yun, it would be a different story. That night, Roy showed off his cooking skills and prepared a delicious dinner with Darkness. Wow, this is so good! Megumin exclaimed, completely won over by the food. I didn't know you could cook, Roy. This is amazing. Aqua also praised, stuffing her face. I'm glad you all like it, Roy replied with a smile. Darkness looked at him with admiration. She hadn't expected him to be a better cook than her. She was determined to improve her cooking skills. The delicious meal further increased the girls' affection for Roy. Their peaceful days continued. One day, they visited Wiz's magic item shop. Hey, Wiz! Roy called out as they entered the shop. Wiz was sitting behind the counter, seemingly lost in thought. Roy-sama, Aqua-sama, welcome, she greeted them with a smile. Roy and Megumin noticed a pair of red eyes staring at them from behind a shelf. Megumin, seeing the familiar red eyes, quickly averted her gaze. This action, however, caught the attention of the figure behind the shelf. You saw me, didn't you? Why are you ignoring me? A girl with black hair, red eyes, and an impressive figure jumped out from behind the shelf. This was Yun, Megumin's classmate and self-proclaimed rival. Despite being around the same age as Megumin, her figure was surprisingly well developed. Her assets were truly remarkable. Roy's eyes widened as he looked at Yun. She was a perfect example of a lowly bombshell. Aqua and Darkness looked at the two girls curiously. Isn't that Yun, the one who calls herself my rival? Megumin said with a smirk. Don't say calls herself my rival. Yun retorted. Oh, is that wrong? Yes, it is. We're rivals. Megumin's nonchalant attitude made Yun feel a bit mistreated. Back in the Crimson Demon Village, Megumin and Yun were actually good friends. But Megumin loved to tease Yun just like now. Megumin. Yun pointed at her with a determined glint in her eyes. Although I didn't expect to run into you here, this is perfect. Today, we'll settle this once and for all. But Megumin remained unfazed by her challenge. Why bother? I've always won, haven't I? She said casually. Yun's shoulders slumped. Yun, Roy suddenly interjected, you've already won, haven't you? Eh? Yun looked at him with confusion. We haven't been properly introduced yet, have we? I'm Roy. Megumin's party leader, Roy said with a smile, gently patting Megumin's hat. He couldn't give her a head pat since she was wearing her hat. I'm Aqua. I'm Darkness. Ah, I'm Yun, Megumin's classmate. After exchanging introductions, Yun returned to Roy's previous statement. Roy-san, what did you mean by I've already won? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Roy chuckled, glancing at Yun's impressive figure. Megumin followed his gaze and instantly understood. She narrowed her eyes, looking at Yun with a hint of jealousy. Eh? Yun was confused, then she noticed Megumin stare and looked down at herself, blushing and covering her chest with her arms. Roy is becoming more and more of a pervert, Megumin commented. Yun's face turned even redder, and she hid her face in her hands. Yun heard that you, Megumin, often come here to play, so that's why she comes to the shop every day, was suddenly revealed. Yun was flustered. Yun, don't be shy. You're welcome to visit our mansion anytime, Darkness said, inviting her over. Really? Yun was surprised. But if I bring a lot of snacks and drinks, you won't say, why did you actually come? Do you even know what a polite invitation means? Yun asked, imitating Megumin's voice. It seemed Megumin had teased Yun quite a bit in the past. Megumin, embarrassed that her past actions had been revealed, puffed out her cheeks and was about to retort when Roy interrupted. Of course you're welcome, Yun. By the way, you don't have a party yet, do you? Why don't you join ours? That way, you can be with Megumin all the time, he offered. Really? Yun's eyes lit up. The thought of adventuring with Megumin filled her with excitement. But Megumin immediately objected. No. I refuse. Eh? Why, Megumin? Aren't you two good friends? Aqua asked, confused. We're not friends. Megumin denied, turning away. Yun's eyes welled up with tears. Just then, a hand gently patted her head. Don't worry, Yun. I'm the leader of this party. Megumin doesn't have the right to refuse. So, you're in, Roy said with a smile. Really? Yun looked at him with hope. Of course. From today onwards, you're a member of our party. Yun's tears turned into a joyful smile. Megumin, seeing that Roy had ignored her objections and accepted Yun, pouted. But she was secretly happy that Yun was joining them. After all, they were childhood friends. The two girls soon started playing together, although it seemed like Megumin was mostly teasing Yun. There were many interesting items in Wiz's shop, but due to her poor business skills, she was always struggling financially. Roy and the others bought a few trinkets. After playing around for a while, they took Yun back to the mansion. Chapter 247, Returning to DxD, New World Black Bullet, meeting Tendo Kazara. Roy had spent quite some time in the world of Konosuba. He had conquered Wiz, Yun, Megumin, Aqua, and even the elusive Chris. Having achieved his goals in this world, he decided to return to the world of Highschool DxD. As for the demon king of this world, well, he wasn't defeated yet. But that didn't matter. Rias, Aquino, and the others were eager to experience an adventure in another world. He could let them deal with the demon king. Leaving Luna behind as a guide for Rias and the others, and with Chris managing this world, Roy returned to the world of Highschool DxD. He then sent Rias, Aquino, Kaneko, Ikakiryu, Nezuko Kamadu, Shinobu Kocho, Akame, Kurom, Claire, Rinslet, and the others to the world of Konosuba. With Luna's help, the girls began their adventure in another world. Roy, meanwhile, stayed home and comforted Grafia, Sona, Tsubaki, Yasaka, Shizuka, Siko, Isteth, and the others. A month later, Roy embarked on a new journey. This time, he wasn't going to a high-level world. Instead, he chose a world with a lower power level. That was because his system had finally been upgraded. Previously, he could only increase his strength by forming contracts with powerful beings using his evil pieces. But now, whenever a servant he had contracted with an evil piece grew stronger, he would also receive a portion of their power. In other words, he could now increase his strength by nurturing weaker servants. So, he set his sights on the world of Black Bullet. This was a world where humanity had been defeated by Gastria, a virus-like parasitic creature. In this world, pregnant women infected with the Gastria virus gave birth to children with special abilities. These children, known as cursed children, possessed the traits of the Gastria they were infected with. And all the cursed children were adorable little girls. However, as the virus within them progressed, they would eventually transform into Gastria themselves. This made them feared and ostracized by humans even though their powers were essential for fighting the Gastria. Some cursed children partnered with humans to eliminate Gastria. These children were called initiators. And their human partners were called promoters. Most promoters saw the initiators as mere tools. In this world, most cursed children were hated, bullied, and even killed by humans. Humanity had become corrupted and twisted due to the Gastria threat. The cursed children lived in the shadows, like rats in the sewers. Humans relied on their power but also persecuted them. This world was darker and more twisted than any other world Roy had visited. But he didn't care. If he got annoyed, he could always just destroy this world with a single explosion spell. His purpose in coming here was to save the cursed children. These girls were born with incredible power. With proper training, they could become incredibly strong. But how many cursed children were there in the world? Roy didn't know the exact number. But he knew that in the original story, the protagonist, Rantaro Satomi, had an initial promoter rank, IP rank, of 123,452. As a new promoter, he was likely at the bottom of the rankings. This meant there were at least 123,452 other promoters. And each promoter had an initiator partner. So, there were at least 123,452 cursed children who were initiators. But how many cursed children were there in total? Many more cursed children were still living in the shadows, like rats in the sewers. The total number might even exceed 1 million. And all these cursed children were potential servants for Roy. Imagine if he could raise their power to Mao class or even higher. The boost to his own strength would be immense. He might even be able to reach the Solaric level. And even if he couldn't increase his power, saving these little girls was still a noble cause. Who could refuse having 1 million little sisters? With that in mind, Roy used the system to teleport to the world of Black Bullet. So this is the Black Bullet world. Roy muttered, looking down at the earth from high in the sky. Massive towering structures, reaching towards the heavens, dotted the landscape. These were the monoliths, gigantic structures made of veranium that emitted a special magnetic field to repel Gastria. They had been built after humanity's defeat in the war against the Gastria. And within these monoliths, humans lived in protected zones. Japan was divided into 5 areas by these monoliths, and Roy was currently in the area where the original story took place. Saving all the cursed children in the world was a simple task for him. He could just use his magic to gather them all and take them away. But some of the initiators in the original story had formed bonds with humans. In this world, 99% of humans saw the initiators as mere tools. Roy could easily take those children away with his magic. But there were a few humans who genuinely cared for the cursed children. Like the protagonist. Or the old man who took care of the cursed children in the outer area. He couldn't use force to take those children away. The children living in the sewers of the outer area were easy to deal with, but Enju Ehara, who had formed a close bond with the protagonist Rantaro Satomi, would be more difficult. Roy was also fond of this adorable little girl and didn't want to let her suffer. As a cursed child, Enju was destined to turn into a Gastria eventually. Only Roy could save her. And to prevent her from forming a bond with Rantaro, he simply had to go back in time to before they met. That was a year before the start of the original story, when Enju and Rantaro first encountered each other. It was also when Rantaro left the Tendo family and formed the Tendo Civil Security Corporation with Kazara Tendo. Kazara, a beautiful young woman with long black hair and an impressive figure, was also a skilled swordswoman. She was quite similar to Siko Busujima in some ways. But Kazara had been saved by Rantaro when she was younger, making it difficult to poach her. So Roy used his time magic to go back to the night when Kazara was attacked by a Gastria. Although Kazara was the eldest daughter of the main Tendo family, her parents had been targeted by other members of the family for trying to expose their corruption. And so, on that night, Kazara and her parents were attacked by a Gastria that suddenly appeared in their home. A massive spider-like Gastria smashed through the wall. The seemingly sturdy house quickly collapsed. Kazara, run! No! Dad, Mom! A young Kazara with black hair and eyes cried out as her parents fought the Gastria with their handguns. But they were no match for the creature. Her parents were both impaled by the Gastria's legs. Kazara screamed in anguish, but no one came to help. Rantaro, who was living with the Tendo family at the time, watched in shock. The Gastria turned towards them, and just as it was about to attack. Rumble! A rift suddenly opened in the sky, catching their attention. Roy, dressed in the elegant and noble attire of the Lucifuge family, emerged from the rift. He had used his own power to travel through time. Only Lukoa among his servants could use time magic. After becoming a stellar-level being, he had asked Lukoa to teach him how to manipulate time. And after much research and practice, he had finally mastered it. Now, he could freely travel through time within the same world without relying on the system. Looking at the two stunned children and the Gastria, Roy smiled and waved his hand. The Gastria instantly turned to ash and vanished. Young Kazara, witnessing this scene, was awestruck. This moment would be forever etched in her memory. "Are you a god?" she wondered aloud. "No, I'm a devil," Roy replied with a smile, descending from the sky and landing before her. "A devil? Whatever you are. Please save my parents," Kazara pleaded, falling to her knees. Chapter 248, Making a Contract with Tendo. Kazara, 16-year-old Kazara is wonderful. Young Kazara suddenly knelt before Roy, begging him to save her parents. Roy was momentarily surprised, then smiled. "Making a deal with a devil comes at a price. What can you offer?" he asked. Kazara didn't hesitate. "Anything. I'll give you anything. Please save my parents." Roy smirked and an evil piece floated towards Kazara. Without a word, Kazara understood. She reached out and grabbed the evil piece. A magic circle appeared beneath her feet, and a gentle light enveloped her. Transforming into a devil wouldn't significantly increase her strength, but it would greatly enhance her talent and potential. As a natural-born swordswoman, her future achievements would surely surpass those of her original self. The transformation would take some time. Roy glanced at Rantaro, who was still in shock, then turned his attention to Kazara's parents. They had been impaled by the Gastria and were clearly dead. Fortunately, they hadn't been dead for long. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to revive them. Roy waved his hand, and Kazara's parents' bodies were restored. After finishing his task, he looked at Kazara, who was still enveloped in the magic circle, and left a message in her mind before disappearing from this point in time. Kazara woke up after the devil transformation was complete. A voice echoed in her mind. Kazara Tendo, I will return when you've grown up. Don't disappoint me. Kazara was startled, then realized that it must have been the devil who had saved her. She looked towards the collapsed house. Her father suddenly stirred and sat up. Her mother also woke up. Kazara's eyes filled with tears. Dad! Mom! She rushed towards them with incredible speed, surprising her father. Kazara, weren't we dead? He asked hesitantly. Yes. Where's that monster? Her mother also asked, confused. She remembered being killed by the Gastria. Why was she alive now? It's okay, as long as you're both alive. Kazara cried, hugging her parents tightly. She didn't mention the deal she had made with the devil. Her parents, seeing her reaction, didn't question her further. After all, it was normal for a child to be confused in such a situation. But Rantaro, who had witnessed everything, would never forget this night. Meanwhile, Roy returned to the present timeline, eager to see how Kazara had grown. He also wanted to observe if his actions in the past had caused any significant changes to this world. He scanned the world with his senses and instantly grasped the current situation. To his surprise, Kazara's parents had been attacked by another Gastria a year after he revived them. And this time, the Gastria was much stronger. Kazara's parents hadn't been able to escape and were killed. After all, they couldn't have been completely unaware of the previous attack. And the other members of the Tendo family, knowing that their treachery had been exposed, wouldn't allow them to live. So, Kazara, like in the original story, became an orphan. This only intensified her hatred for the Tendo family. She trained relentlessly in swordsmanship, having already mastered the Tendo-style Iajutsu at a young age. She even created her own, more powerful swordsmanship techniques. By this time, her strength had reached the level of a middle-class devil. Although not invincible in this world, she was still one of the strongest humans. At least until the new humanity creation plan was developed. Kazara, armed with her newfound power, sought revenge against the Tendo family. But she ultimately failed. Not because she wasn't strong enough, but because she was manipulated by Kikuniju Tendo's guilt-tripping tactics. Young Kazara was no match for the cunning old man. And like in the original story, at the age of 16, she finally left the Tendo family and established the Tendo Civil Security Corporation. It seems nothing much has changed, Roy mused. The only difference was Kazara's relationship with Rantaro. Although Kazara had still taken Rantaro with her when she left the Tendo family, they were only friends now, not lovers. After all, she hadn't been saved by Rantaro this time, and she had already formed a contract with a devil. At the Tendo Civil Security Corporation. Kazara Tendo, a beautiful young woman with long black hair, exquisite features, and a stunning figure, leaned against her desk, gazing out the window. She was lost in thought, reminiscing about a life-changing event from her childhood. He said he would come back to see me when I grew up. I wonder when that will be, she murmured. And I've already formed a servant contract with him. So, I guess I belong to him now. She blushed. The image of the handsome and mysterious Roy lingered in her mind. That's right, you do belong to me, a familiar voice suddenly said from behind her. Kazara jumped, startled. She instinctively reached for her sword, ready to attack, but then she froze. It's you! She gasped, recognizing Roy. Although many years had passed, Roy hadn't aged a day. He was still the same handsome and mysterious man she remembered. She blushed, remembering her earlier thoughts. Why, you finally came. She stammered, her hands fidgeting nervously. Yes, I did. You were expecting me, weren't you? Roy teased with a smirk, taking a seat and observing her carefully. Kazara was really beautiful, with a figure and demeanor similar to Seiko Busujima's. Roy was quite fond of her. Kazara blushed under his intense gaze and looked away shyly. That. She wanted to change the subject but realized she didn't even know his name. I'm Roy Lucifuge. Just call me Roy. Or Master if you prefer, Roy said with a playful grin. Kazara's face turned even redder. Calling him by his first name seemed too intimate, but calling him Master was too embarrassing. After a moment of hesitation, she finally said, Roy. Yes, Kazara? What did you want to say? Roy asked, casually using her first name. Roy, who are you? Are you really a devil from hell? Kazara asked curiously. Hell? Roy chuckled. Of course not. There's no such thing as hell in this world. Or perhaps this world is hell itself. I'm from another world. Another world? Kazara's curiosity grew. She didn't question his statement about this world being hell. Perhaps she agreed with him subconsciously. After losing the war against the Gastria, humanity was confined to a small area, living like caged birds. And they were constantly under threat from the Gastria. The monoliths couldn't stop the most powerful Gastria, the Stage V. Any Stage V Gastria could potentially destroy an entire city, turning millions of humans into food. They continued chatting. Kazara gradually relaxed. She realized that Roy, despite being a mysterious devil, was quite approachable. And the more she learned about him, the more intrigued she became. Roy, what's your purpose in coming to this world? She suddenly asked. It's for the cursed children, Roy replied with a smile. Cursed children? Kazara frowned in confusion. Yes, the cursed children of this world are born with great power. And they're excellent candidates for becoming my followers, Roy explained. Kazara's eyes widened in surprise, then she asked with hope, can you solve the problem of the cursed children turning into Gastria? She was a kind girl who wanted to save those children from their suffering. Of course. Roy confirmed with a nod. She smiled again. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Kazara-san, are you there? It was Rentaro Satomi. It's Rentaro. Come in, Kazara said, glancing at Roy. Seeing that he didn't object, she let Rentaro in. Rentaro entered and froze when he saw Roy. The memories of that fateful night flooded back, and his expression changed. Rentaro, you should know him too. This is Roy-sama, Kazara introduced, then turned to Roy and introduced Rentaro. Rentaro immediately knelt on one knee and bowed his head respectfully. Roy-sama. He couldn't help but show respect. After all, this man was like a god to him. He often recalled that shocking night, when Roy had effortlessly eradicated the Gastria and revived the dead. He wished he had met Roy sooner. Perhaps his parents would still be alive then. Chapter 249, How Spectacular It Is to Explode a Planet with Explosion Magic, Bleasing Cursed Children. Roy nodded, observing Rentaro's respectful demeanor. He wasn't particularly fond of Rentaro. In fact, he found him rather annoying. Rentaro was too idealistic, wanting to save the world but lacking the power to do so. And in the end, he had chosen humanity over the cursed children. That was why Roy didn't like him. But he also didn't care enough to bother with him. Kazara, seeing Roy's indifferent expression, realized that he wasn't interested in Rentaro and quickly changed the subject. So, now that the Tendo Civil Security Corporation is established, and Rentaro is our first civil officer, I'll apply for an initiator to assist him. She glanced at Roy, noticing his interest, and continued, Roy, do you need me to apply for another initiator? She remembered Roy's interest in the cursed children. Although she didn't know how he planned to save them, this should be helpful, right? But, is that okay? Rentaro asked hesitantly. Their company had just been founded, and he was the only civil officer registered. Would they really approve his request for 2 initiators? Don't worry, I'll talk to them personally, Kazara said with a confident smirk. Her strength had made her a formidable figure among the various factions. And the ruler of this area, Saitenshi, was her friend. It wouldn't be a problem to make such a small request. All right, then I'll leave it to you, Roy said with a nod. His main goal in coming to this world was to save Enjuehara. She should be among the initiators assigned to them. But that wasn't enough. The cursed children in this world were treated unfairly. Many of them were persecuted and killed every day. He had to use his power to protect them. With that in mind, he waved his hand, dismissing Rentaro. He then took Kizara to the sky. They looked down at the areas enclosed by the monoliths. The humans were like livestock, confined to a limited space. And they were constantly under threat from the Gastria. Yet, they blamed all their misfortunes on the cursed children. It was truly tragic. Their presence in the sky was immediately detected by satellites. But Roy simply glanced at them and they malfunctioned and fell from orbit. "All right, let's begin," he said. "What are you going to do, Roy?" Kizara asked curiously. "Protect the cursed children, of course." Roy began chanting an incantation. "By my will, O cursed children, accept my protection." As he chanted, a powerful wave of energy washed over the planet. All the cursed children heard Roy's gentle and comforting voice in their minds, a voice that felt as warm and safe as a mother's embrace. They all accepted his protection without hesitation. Meanwhile, in one of the areas, a horrific scene was unfolding. Several civil officers were brutally beating a cursed child, their faces contorted with hatred. Then, they drew their guns, ready to kill her. The battered and bruised cursed child suddenly heard a comforting voice and instinctively accepted its protection. Her wounds instantly healed. The civil officers fired their guns. The cursed child didn't even have time to react. But as the bullets reached her, a barrier of light enveloped her. The bullets harmlessly bounced off the barrier. The civil officers were stunned, then fired again. But it was useless. Roy, having received the responses from the cursed children and witnessed their suffering, felt a surge of anger. He immediately ordered them to fight back. Ordinary guns were useless against cursed children. If they fought back, the civil officers wouldn't stand a chance. Soon, reports of cursed children attacking humans flooded in from all over the world. The world was in chaos. People were terrified. They couldn't harm the cursed children. And any attempt to hurt or control them was met with lethal force. Under Roy's protection, the cursed children were safe. And they had a new faith, a new savior, Roy. He was the one who had rescued them from the darkness. Roy could have used his magic to bring all the cursed children to him right now. But he had just arrived in this world. He wanted to stay for a few days and observe. And after seeing the suffering of the cursed children, he was considering whether to destroy this world with explosion magic. The sight of a planet exploding would be quite spectacular. Kizara, unaware of Roy's thoughts, took him back to her home. "I'm sorry, but this is the only place I have to offer you," she said apologetically. Her apartment was small and shabby. "It's fine," Roy replied with a shrug, making himself comfortable on the sofa. Like in the original story, Kizara was struggling financially. She had just started her business, and Rentaro, her only employee, hadn't completed any quests yet. She didn't have much money. Even this apartment was rented. "I'll make you some dinner," Kizara said, blushing slightly as she went to the kitchen. The kitchen was close to the living room, and Roy could see her preparing the meal. It was a heartwarming sight. But the ingredients didn't look very impressive. She was indeed poor. Kizara hadn't been this poor initially, but she had spent a lot of money to enroll in the prestigious Magata Institute. That's why she was struggling now. "Kizara, there's no need. Come and eat," Roy said, waving his hand. A variety of delicious dishes appeared on the small table, filling the room with a mouth-watering aroma. Kizara, initially confused, was instantly distracted by the smell of the food. "This is?" she asked, setting down her cooking utensils and approaching the table, unable to resist the temptation. Having lived in poverty for so long, she had never enjoyed such a luxurious meal before. "Don't ask. Just eat," Roy said with a smile, beckoning her over. Kizara blushed but obediently sat down. It smells so good," she murmured, practically drooling. Kazara was a beautiful girl with long black hair, fair skin, and sharp eyes. She usually had a melancholic expression on her face. Roy thought she would look even more adorable if she smiled more often. Kazara blushed under his gaze. Her usual gloomy aura vanished, replaced by a youthful charm that made Roy's heart skip a beat. "Eat more if you like it," he said gently. Kazara nodded and started eating with gusto, her cheeks stuffed with food. She didn't even seem to notice Roy's surprised gaze. After finishing her meal, she finally blushed and looked down, embarrassed by her lack of table manners. Roy chuckled. It seemed that all girls were foodies, even Kazara Tendo. After cleaning up the dishes, Kazara suddenly realized something and froze. There was only one bedroom in this apartment. What were they going to do tonight? Her face flushed red again. She had maintained a cold and aloof persona for over 10 years, but now, in front of Roy, she was constantly blushing and acting flustered. She slapped her cheeks lightly, trying to calm down, then approached Roy. It's fine. I don't mind sharing the bed with you, Kazara," Roy interrupted her, seemingly knowing what she was going to say. Kazara's face turned even redder. If anyone else had said such a shameless thing, she would have put them in their place with her swordsmanship. But coming from Roy, it was different. She didn't know how to respond and fled to the bathroom in embarrassment. Roy chuckled. It was fun to tease this usually stoic girl. However, he hadn't expected her to take his words seriously. That night, she came to his bed. And Roy, not being a saint, couldn't resist. Kazara experienced a life-changing night. The next day, Kazara had to go to the higher-ups to apply for an initiator. Roy, having nothing else to do, decided to accompany her. As they walked through the streets, Kazara was surprised by the tense atmosphere. Due to the cursed children's resistance and the humans' inability to harm them, people were terrified of them. But there were still some who refused to back down and continued to harass the cursed children. And those people were killed without mercy. As a result, people avoided the cursed children whenever possible. Seeing a few cursed children stealing food on the streets, he decided to take them away soon. Although they were protected by his magic, they were still vulnerable to hunger and other dangers. Chapter 250, Little Loli Tina Sprout and Ehara Enju Tendo Family Massacre. This is it. Roy, do you want to come inside with me? Kazara asked as they arrived at a luxurious building. This was the headquarters of the Tendo family, where her grandfather, Kakunaju Tendo, resided. He was also the advisor to Saitenshi, the ruler of this area. They needed his permission to apply for an initiator. Roy would have been interested in meeting Saitenshi, but he had no interest in this old man. "I'll pass," he said, shaking his head. Kazara sighed. "All right, then wait for me here." "Okay, go ahead." Roy smiled and waved her off. Kazara entered the building. Roy wandered down the street, bored. Suddenly, he spotted a familiar figure. A little girl with wavy blonde hair, dressed in a green dress, was dozing off on a bench in a nearby park. Roy instantly recognized her as Tina Sprout. She was Kazara's initiator partner in the original story. But initially, Tina had been hired to assassinate Kazara. The one who had hired her was Sojin Saitake, the ruler of Osaka area. He had later tried to assassinate Saitenshi as well, but he had failed. Tina possessed the owl factor, making her most powerful at night. During the day, she was prone to drowsiness and needed caffeine to stay active. And she was incredibly strong, even stronger than Enju Ehara. Roy found it adorable that she was taking a nap here. He remembered that this was around the time she received the assassination request. So, she must be here to carry out her mission. With that in mind, Roy walked over and sat down next to her. Tina didn't react. She didn't seem to sense any danger. Roy gently pulled her into his arms. Tina snuggled closer, enjoying the warmth, and continued sleeping. Roy chuckled. She was so cute when she was sleepy. Perhaps because she was so comfortable, Tina soon woke up. She blinked, surprised to find herself in someone's arms. Then, she saw Roy and her eyes lit up. "Kami-sama," she exclaimed. She recognized Roy as the god who had granted them his protection. And she felt an inexplicable sense of closeness to him. "Tina, just call me Royoni-chan," Roy said with a smile, patting her head. "Royoni-chan," Tina repeated, feeling instantly comfortable with him. All the cursed children who had received Roy's protection felt a sense of trust and affection towards him. "Tina, you're here for the assassination mission, aren't you?" Roy suddenly asked. "Yes, that's right," Tina confirmed with a nod. "Forget about that mission. Come with me," Roy said, standing up and taking her hand. "Okay." Tina readily agreed with a smile. She didn't feel any attachment to her previous employer. Kazara had been inside the building for a while now, but she still hadn't come out. Roy used his magic to see what was happening inside. And what he saw displeased him. "Let's go, Tina. We're going to find Kazara and take her home." "Going home? Yay!" They entered the building. The guards at the entrance didn't react to their presence. Roy and Tina soon reached an office. Without knocking, Roy pushed the door open. Inside, several members of the Tendo family were mocking Kazara for requesting another initiator. Kikuniju Tendo was among them. A young man, about the same age as Kazara, was particularly vocal in his insults. When Kazara had tried to kill the Tendo family members who had framed her parents, Kikuniju had stopped her with a guilt trip, claiming that her actions would endanger the entire region. And now, they seemed to have forgotten about Kazara's strength, or perhaps her constant tolerance had emboldened them. "Kazara, I won't allow them to bully you like this. These people are your enemies, right? If you can't bring yourself to kill them, I can do it for you," Roy declared, ignoring their protests about his intrusion. In his eyes, these people were nothing but ants. But Kazara hesitated. The Tendo family was an influential power in this region. Even Saitenshi relied on Kikuniju Tendo's guidance. If the important members of the Tendo family were killed, the entire region might fall into chaos. That's why Kazara had been forced to give up on her revenge, threatened with the lives of everyone in the region. And her tolerance had only emboldened them. "Royoni-chan, do you need me to take care of them?" Tina asked in a soft voice, her eyes narrowed dangerously. Although she looked harmless, she was a skilled assassin, proficient in using sniper rifles, handguns, and even close combat. Roy patted her head, signaling her to calm down. Just then, Kazumitsu Tendo clapped his hands, and several guards rushed in, aiming their guns at them. He believed that even Kazara wouldn't be able to defeat so many armed guards. Kazara frowned and drew her sword, but she hesitated. Roy sighed inwardly. This uncorrupted Kazara was too soft-hearted. If it were Siko, she would have attacked without hesitation, regardless of the consequences. It seemed Kazara needed some training as well. Roy's eyes gleamed, and he cast an illusion on Kazara. Kazara, who had been glaring at Kazumitsu, suddenly found herself back in that tragic night when her parents were killed. She saw her parents being slaughtered by the Gastria, and the Tendo family members laughing cruelly. Kazara's heart was filled with rage, and she finally snapped. She emerged from the illusion, her sword flashing. Slash! The guards behind her were decapitated, their blood splattering across the room. The Tendo family members were horrified. They hadn't expected Kazara to actually attack, and so ruthlessly. "Kazara, you have to understand. If you kill us, the entire region will fall into chaos. You'll be responsible for the deaths of everyone." Kikuniju exclaimed, resorting to his usual guilt-tripping tactics. But Kazara, consumed by rage, ignored him. "Ha!" she shouted, her sword dancing through the air. When the dust settled, only corpses remained in the office. All the members of the Tendo family were dead. Roy, looking at the bloodthirsty Kazara, sighed. It seemed she couldn't snap out of this state on her own. He snapped his fingers, and Kazara returned to normal. She stared at the carnage in horror. What happened? Did you do this, Roy? She asked, her voice trembling. She didn't remember what she had done in her rage. No, you did, Roy replied calmly. Kazara looked at the wounds on the bodies and realized that they were indeed caused by her sword. She frowned, but she also felt a sense of satisfaction. She had finally done what she had always wanted to do but never dared to. But then, worry washed over her. Without Kakuniju Tendo, Saitenchi wouldn't be able to manage this region. Chaos would ensue. And humanity would be doomed. Don't worry about it. You're not human anymore, remember? Roy said with a smile, patting her head gently. Kazara blinked, but she still couldn't shake off her worry. Let's go. Roy took Tina's hand and left the office. The news of the Tendo family massacre spread quickly. The entire region was in a panic. The cursed children's rebellion, coupled with the deaths of the Tendo family leaders, had thrown the region into chaos. The next day, someone brought 2 initiators to the Tendo Civil Security Corporation. Kazara-san, these are the initiators assigned to you by Saitenchi-sama, a group of officials said, presenting 2 little girls. One was Anju Ehara, with her long crimson hair and a melancholic expression. The other was Keo Senju, a girl with emotionless black eyes and short blonde hair. She was the initiator partnered with Shogeni Kuma in the original story. She possessed the dolphin factor, which gave her an IQ of 210, but her regeneration abilities were weaker than those of other initiators. But it seemed she hadn't met Shurgen yet. Thank you, Kazara said politely. The officials left. I didn't expect Saitenchi to have the time to deal with this, Kazara mused. With the region in chaos, Saitenchi must be very busy. She hadn't expected her request for initiators to be processed so quickly. She was right. Not only was the region in chaos, but there was also unrest within the government. Without Kakuniju Tendo to keep them in check, the other factions were vying for power. After all, everyone knew that Saitenchi was just a figurehead. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.